Hi, Dr. Miner. Today I'm talking to Kimberley Miner. She is a climate scientist at the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab in California and a Climate Change Institute research assistant professor. She's a fellow at the Center for Climate and Security, co-chair of the NASA Interagency Forum on Climate Change Risks, Impacts, and Adaptation. Okay, I can't believe I'm talking to a scientist that works for NASA.
Yay.
Anyway, the reason I wanted to talk is that I heard about zombie viruses on the news and I got kind of scared. And my mom suggested we reach out to you. Warmer temperatures in the Arctic are thawing permafrost, which is a frozen layer of soil beneath the ground, and potentially melting viruses that, after sleeping for thousands of years, could make people and animals sick. Do zombie viruses mean that people could turn into zombies?
No. So the idea is that this is a virus that we feel like has come back to life, even though it's just been sleeping for a long time. But we don't have any evidence that any of these microbes could make people sick.
Dr. Claire V from Aix-Marseille University in France has found some viruses that can still be infectious after 48,500 years. Anthrax in Siberia has affected dozens of people and more than 2,000 reindeer in the summer of 2016 and has been linked to the thawing of permafrost. A study in Canada showed the risk of viruses infecting new hosts was higher, where glacier meltwater flows into lakes. Current day Arctic temperatures are warming up to 4 times faster than the rest of the planet. Should zombie viruses really be what we should be worried about?
This is a good question, and everything that you said was correct, but I think it's important to put a little bit of context. So the anthrax virus is something that's all over the world, as we know, and it's not necessarily going directly from permafrost to people. There's no real evidence of that. I would also argue that zombie viruses are probably not our number one concern right now. There's a lot of very serious consequences of climate change that we've seen all over the world in this last year, whether it's flooding in Pakistan or extreme fires or extreme temperatures in India or the German rivers drying up. I think there's some really, really serious things happening. And though zombie viruses are interesting, and I'm glad that I get to research them, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the most important thing for us to be thinking or talking about.
Yeah, because climate change is causing the melting of the permafrost, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And so if we were to be able to slow down climate change, then we would be able to preserve the permafrost, and then we wouldn't even have to worry about zombie viruses.
Yeah. You work on the Arctic Methane Project, looking at the impacts of climate change in the Arctic. I feel
Mhm.
people don't talk enough about methane. It's much more dangerous than CO2 short term, correct?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that we're not talking about methane as much as we could be. We have a new satellite from NASA called EMIT, EMIT, and that looks at methane from space at the finest resolution we've ever had. So we're able to see how much methane is coming from what source, whether it's landfill, whether it's the permafrost, whatever. And I think that using these tools, we should be able to start understanding where the methane is coming from and try to get it to stop.
Yeah. What is the best way to stop permafrost from melting?
Probably stop dumping carbon into the atmosphere. So we have to slow down or stop climate change.
Yeah. You have done research in Alaska developing the first health assessment of glacier meltwater pollution. For this work, you were awarded fellowships from the Fulbright Foundation, the National Science Foundation, the Department of Defense, and the Schweitzer Foundation. Having worked in Alaska, what do you think of the announcement by the US government to approve Willow, the largest oil project ever on the US lands, when the IPCC report says new fossil fuel projects are incompatible with the goal to limit warming to 1.5?
Yeah, this is a really important thing for us to be talking about. I think it's very concerning for us to have new fossil fuel projects. I think it's especially concerning for us to be doing it on such fragile tundra. We know from projects nearby, from the wildlife reserve, that the area underneath the oil pad will never recover. We'll never be able to get it back to where it was before there was a drilling project there. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of miles that'll be covered with this new oil drilling project. Now, while we're talking about Willow, it's also important to know that we also opened up a part of the Gulf of Mexico for new drilling projects. So even though the IPCC says we should do no more new drilling projects, the United States now has 2 that we're planning on doing right away.
Yeah. In 2014, you traveled by boat from Chile to Antarctica to participate in research on oceans during climate change. What was that like?
Well, it was an amazing adventure. The boat was kind of old. It's a research vessel, so it's not very fancy. And we had to use diesel fuel. So everything smelled like diesel fuel all the time, which made me a little bit seasick in the beginning. I got to see some incredible icebergs. And I got to find out that penguins are unbelievably stinky. They smell just absolutely terrible. You can smell them from miles away. But it was a really, really huge adventure. And I worked on the night shift. So I was up, it was totally still light out. And I would be up by myself working in a lab that was strapped to the deck of the boat, even in really rough seas, just trying to stay standing.
So you did see penguins.
Saw a lot of penguins. And moreover, I smelled a lot of penguins, very stinky penguins.
You are a certified wilderness firefighter. What is it like fighting fires caused by climate change?
So I didn't ever fight fires caused by climate change. There are some really, really big heroes out there who do. What I did is called controlled burning. So we would go out in the beginning of the year and we would actually light fires and then keep them under control so that all of the stuff on the ground that was going to burn anyway would be burned off. And then the fires aren't so bad. They're not so hot. And that also is very stinky. I'm realizing that smelling things is a big part of my exploration experience. The smoke is very, very strong and it makes your eyes water so that you can't see. It makes your nose burn. It makes your throat burn. It's definitely a very dirty experience to be a wildlife firefighter.
Yeah. You have a rescue dog named Darby. What kind of dog is she?
So she is a cattle dog, and unfortunately she's on a walk right now, or I would introduce you. She was rescued from Tennessee and she had to hunt for her own food, but now she gets dog food in a bowl. And she's a really good dog. She's about 12 years old and she likes to chase birds sometimes when she's allowed to. She really likes to chase squirrels, but she's never allowed to. And she likes to snuggle.
I actually have a dog. He is a collie. He's in my garden.
Does he ever dig in the garden?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh no. Okay.
What do you wish more people knew about climate change?
I think the thing that I wish was that more people took it really, really seriously, like really, really, really seriously. I think about it all day, every day, and maybe that's not necessarily the healthiest thing, but it seems to me that if we all spent a little bit more time thinking really hard about what's going on and how we could be part of a solution, then we would be making better progress in that direction.
Yeah. This has been a really great talk. Thanks so much for joining me today. And remember, together kids can save the world. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.